Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Oh, this is exciting. My first one.
Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the Em.Powercoaching podcast. I am joined by my very good friend Mark, who is right now all the way in Bangkok, Thailand. So this is really exciting, and thank you so much because obviously the time difference is a bit crazy. So thank you
This is perfect for me.
So today's topic, we're going to be talking about yoga for mental health. It is currently Mental Health Awareness Week, a very important one for me in my coaching. And Mark is a very well experienced yoga practitioner with absolute thousands of experience behind him, so he is a great person to talk about this subject with, and will hopefully give us a bit more insight into the yoga practice and how we can use it for mental strength, or mental fitness as I like to call it. So just to kind of get started off, Mark, do you want to give us a bit of a background about you and what it is that you do?
All right, well, my name's Mark. I am a yoga teacher and practitioner in Bangkok, and this is pretty much where I have been teaching my whole life, here and little bits around Southeast Asia, I guess. I've been teaching for, oh God, I think forever, a long time anyways, and yeah, that's about it. I've studied with many teachers around the world, and I think I have something to maybe hopefully say about this.
Yeah, definitely. How did you even get into yoga yourself? Like, how did the journey start for you?
Okay, well, actually, I was in my very first class was at this community center in Toronto, and I heard they had a yoga class. My friend and I were like, okay, let's try it out, and I hated it. I hated it, absolutely hated it. I laughed all the way through it. I was like, oh, I'm not mature enough for yoga. But I tried it again with my family because they wanted to, kind of do something together. And I guess it kind of kicked off. It was a really stressful time in my life. I was like leaving one life and like planning to move into a whole, like across the world to a whole other life. And I just kind of unwillingly kept taking more yoga classes. And I sort of, unbeknownst to myself, realized that yoga was kind of helping me through this transition. And so the second I moved to Australia, I immediately found a yoga studio, and it was kind of like, that's it ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. Because that would be a whole other podcast, but you've done a lot of travel, haven't you? Like, you've even got your own blog for traveling.
I do, yeah. I have a blog called Go Mojo. It's about gay travel in countries that don't really fit on the gay radar.
And honestly, guys, I cannot recommend checking it out enough. It is just fantastic. Like, the way that you write, you really pull someone in, and you feel like you're almost there. But you have so many amazing stories, and you visited so many great places. But yeah, again, we are digressing a little bit there, but definitely worth a note because it's just fantastic. So do go check that out, guys. So going back to what you said about the first time that you did yoga and you absolutely hated it, I want to talk about that because I've had similar experiences. My first yoga class, I laughed the whole way through. It had me pretending to be a hare and making a bee noise in my head and making all these crazy sounds, and I was too immature at the time, and I was like, I cannot sit through this.
I wonder if it's an immaturity thing, or if it's just like, the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, well, okay, it's either, it might not be an immaturity thing, maybe just not feeling confident being so out of place, because it's something that I've never really done before, and I'm surrounded by people that I've never met. So yeah, I think maybe I just felt so out of place and it was uncomfortable, and so what you do in that situation is you kind of laugh it off, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so let's talk about the different types of yoga, because there is definitely not just one. And I know this because of my experience when I first signed up for yoga class at my local gym. thinking that I was going to spend the next 60 minutes of deep relaxation exercises, slow movement, stretching, kind of like releasing all my tension. That's the class I thought I'd signed up to, and I could not have made a bigger mistake. They put me through some movements that I couldn't even really get into. My muscles were aching by the end of it. It was like a strength class that I'd never ever, never sort of taken part in before. And I basically was the complete opposite of what I was expecting. So I had a shock. So let's talk about the different types of yoga that there are.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have to make a distinction, and this is kind of important, between like the big picture of yoga and yoga asana. So when you're doing the physical movements, the poses, you're doing yoga asana, which is one small section in a huge picture. So traditionally, and the word yoga is not about the physical body. It's a mental exercise. It's a spiritual practice. And it's a quest for, I don't know how to say this, for God, for the divine, for the universe, whatever you consider bigger than yourself. So we're not talking religion here. We're talking sort of a spirituality. So the physical aspect of yoga, that physical practice, is a little section of it, but it became very popular. Yeah. So if we take this physical section of yoga and we separate it, it's called hatha yoga. And I'm sure you've maybe heard of like a hatha yoga class. Yeah. So hatha yoga is basically yoga of the body, or the one type of yoga that takes the body into account. Okay. So all the others, they don't really care about the body, because we're eventually going to transcend the body. We're going to reincarnate and hopefully find enlightenment. But Hatha Yoga said, well, wait, if you're sick, if you're uncomfortable, if your body is falling apart, you can't, progress in your spiritual, in your mental exercises. You can't, because your body will be preventing you from doing that. So if we have a healthy body, if we have a fit body, then the mind becomes healthy, then the mind becomes fit, and it can do what it needs to do to progress along the path of yoga. So that's the big distinction. So when you have hatha yoga, it's then divided up into all these different types of yoga. And basically anybody who puts, like, you have all these teachers who kind of put their own spin on yoga, and it became a particular style. So you have a yin yoga, which is, very long holds, much more about releasing rather than engaging. You have the style you did, which sounds more like maybe a really hard vinyasa, which is about more connecting the breath to a movement. There was a great teacher, Krishnamacharya, who set himself up in, I can't remember, somewhere in India, I can't remember where exactly. And he had a bunch of students, and all of them kind of branched out and started teaching how they interpreted his style. So then you had Ashtanga yoga in the south, you have Iyengar yoga from Pune, you have modern day yogas like Anusara, I don't know if that's around anymore, kind of. I don't know, you have like gay male nude yoga. Like there's a lot of different takes on it.
Yeah.
The yoga with the goats. I don't know. Like there's a lot of options now.
Yeah, this is it. There's just so many different types. And I think that's where a lot of people can get confused. Which yoga do you actually choose? Like, how do you know which one to go for?
Well, if you're a beginner, the best thing you can do is try all of them, because you never know what's going to speak to you. You never know what teacher is going to like kind of inspire you or say, hey, wow, you really make sense to me. Any style, I shouldn't say that. Most styles of yoga can be made into beginner, intermediate, advanced, or mixed levels kind of thing. And any good teacher can take a student and say, okay, well, this is where you're at, and then, progress them along. But there are certain styles that are more just naturally more dynamic or physically demanding, and there are styles that are less, but pretty much all of them can be divided up for beginners, intermediate, advanced, but it's the kind of flavor that, you know, you want to try. And to do that, you know, try all of them.
Mm. Okay, definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. Just, you know, have a go at them all and see which one suits you. So,
And once you kind of find what you like, then also have a go with as many different teachers as you can, and because everybody has their own spin on it. So, you know, it's just like a mad experimentation time.
okay. So if we're looking at using yoga for mental resilience, so going down the lines of taking time out from our busy, hectic schedules and really trying to sort of like reconnect with ourselves and find that sort of wind down time, how can yoga actually help build mental resilience, and what type of yoga would you recommend for that? I imagine all of them will help to some degree with building mental resilience, but is there a specific one that would be best?
Well, like we said, yoga is a mental practice. It's a spiritual practice, and we use the mind to achieve like a higher spiritual level. So when we talk about mental resiliency or mental strength, that's what yoga is, basically. But since we're kind of more onto like the asana pose, physical side of yoga, any yoga you do will help you mentally, because when the body feels better, you feel better, you're in a better state of mind. But ultimately what yoga teaches is awareness, and that's awareness. We start with the body. So if I'm doing a yoga pose, I start off even just thinking, ow, my thigh hurts. Ooh, wow, this is really hard. But it's drawing you inwards, and it's making you kind of focus on something about yourself. So then that starts to expand out to, okay, why do I react this way all the time in every situation? Why does this person start to anger me every time I see them? Why am I constantly doing this in my life? So you start to become very aware of yourself and how you're reacting to, well, first of all, yourself and the world. And then you start to see things a lot more clearly, and then you can start to make changes for the better.
So I think that's really important, because when we're kind of like strung up in our busy lifestyles, and people are working longer hours these days, you know, multiple jobs, you know, I think people are working harder and longer at the minute. And when we get caught up in the kind of rat race, I think it's fair to say that it's very easy to disconnect and understand where we're actually at emotionally. You know, for example, when you go on holiday, let's say you go away for like a week and you take a week off work, and it's quite often it can take like 3 or 4 days before you actually fully wind down, and then you start to feel all these kind of like emotions and feelings in your body that you weren't really noticing before, like maybe even like more aches and pains, because you're just constantly going and going and going. You don't really take that time out.
Yep.
So I
When
guess
you're in a conditioned, sorry.
no, go on.
When you're kind of in like a conditioned existence, your brain just kind of does like this the whole time. So to actually move out of that requires something. It requires a hit. And one time a teacher said to me, like, so many people are angry or upset or something, and they don't even know it. So that's just become like a natural state for them. And it isn't until they all of a sudden, for a half a second, feel, oh, I'm not upset, I'm really in a good mood right now. Then it's like, wait a minute, I've been upset for a really long time, or, you know, something like that.
So it kind of brings about that awareness, doesn't it, of how you actually are, and how what you're doing is actually affecting you mentally and physically, but without really fully understanding. So can you explain the difference between yoga and meditation? Because I mean, meditation is what I'm aware of anyway, is it very much about sort of taking time out in a very similar kind of way and connecting with the mind, but it tends to be less physical. So the only kind of definition that I have in my head between yoga and meditation is that yoga is physical and meditation isn't. But I don't know if we can explore that a bit further.
Well, if you've ever had to sit on the floor in the same position for an hour, then you realize very quickly that meditation is very physical.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, when your knees are about to like fall off and burn and all of that, it's a very physical practice. But ultimately, again, yoga is meditation. It is a form of meditation. And the important thing to remember about meditation is there's no one form of meditation. There's a lot of different meditations, just like there's a lot of different minds. So you find the one that works for you. Yoga is a moving meditation. So what meditation kind of, oh, you asking the big questions today. It's, it's kind of like in 3 steps, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, okay? So this is what forms meditation. Dharana, we call concentration, okay? So anything that you concentrate on is a form of dharana. From dharana, if you continue on, if you hold your concentration for long enough, you move into a state of actual meditation called dhyana, which is where things just kind of start to fall away and you're really focused on one point. And then from dhyana, you move into a very, very like, you know, high level state of things where you actually like the mind flips and you become like, it's like bleep, and we call that samadhi. Now we're not going to get too like esoteric about this here, but it's all meditation is an extended concentration and focus. It's an extended focus. So in these poses, you start off with, ow, my thigh hurts. Ooh, my back is hurting in this pose. Ooh, but then that slowly starts moving inwards to focusing on a really long inhale and a really long exhale. And then that starts to move away into, oh, I feel really, really good here. All I feel is really, really, really happy. And then that moves away into just being really present or nothing. You're just 100% in the moment. That's all. That's how yoga, the yoga asana creates meditation.
Awesome. And I mean, I'm sure there's other people that can relate, but I did try meditation and I could not do it because I do really struggle to focus and to concentrate. So if I sit there and try and meditate and home in on my thoughts, and I just go off on one and I'm starting to think, what should I be doing tonight? What do I need to do for work? Like my head is going 100 miles an hour and I really struggle with meditation in the state of just, you know, sitting and not moving. But with yoga, I find that maybe because I'm concentrating on moving the body and my breath, that I'm able to put more of my focus into it than meditation.
Well, it's the same thing again. Like yoga is a state of meditation. And the thing to remember about meditation is, one, there's a lot of different kinds of meditation. So if you're really pounding hard at one and it's just not working, then, you know, there are other options out there, you know? So, I mean, what was like, somebody said, well, a teacher must tell me like feeding a cow every day is a form of meditation, you know? So literally anything can be, I mean, you know, if you happen to have a cow nearby, go for it. Have at it. But like anything can be a meditation, and there's so many different types, like and you have to kind of find the one that suits your style, whatever. The other thing is it's a learned thing. So nobody, you know, sits down, or I guess very few people sit down for like an hour and just like whoomp into perfect, you know, meditation the very first time. You start with 2 minutes. And then you move to 5. And then sometimes you go back to 2 minutes. And then you move to 10 minutes, you know, so it is a learned thing. But the good thing about it is like, there's no, like, you know, there's no scoreboard. You don't have to be at a particular point at a particular time, you know? So it's just something that you do, and you will eventually, slowly, without concern, get better at it.
That is actually very reassuring to hear, because I think, for me, definitely, I tried to do it for maybe like, well, I had in my head, I'll do 10 minutes, okay? And then again, I got like 2, 3 minutes in and I was like, this just isn't going to work. So it's obviously not for me. And I've not returned back to that. But actually knowing that it is something that you develop and that you learn, and that I guess you just got to kind of stick at it and just keep on trying. Practice makes perfect doesn't exist, but practice helps us to get better at things. So I guess that's the main focus there, isn't it? Just to keep
Totally.
at it.
And if it really, 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 like if you just absolutely are hating life, there's so many different types of meditation. Like, don't feel like there's just one where you have to sit and like aggressively, focus on your breath. There's a lot of different types and options and visualizations, and mantra is a type of meditation, and there's like breathing meditations. There's so many different forms that you will find one that kind of works for your mind.
Awesome. So, I mean, we know that yoga is absolutely brilliant for mental resilience, but I want to talk a little bit about, because a lot of the people that listen to my podcast are also very much into the physical fitness as well. And, coming from a resistance weight training background myself, I want to just have a very quick little chat about how possibly yoga can complement weight training and a typical fitness routine, let's say. I think it can complement both mentally and physically, in the fact that it's very important when you are training with weights and resistance training that you are very much in tune with your body, and that you are able to notice when you are feeling certain aches and pains, when you're feeling the contraction of a muscle. So that sort of mind-body connection is really important. So, I feel like yoga could possibly help with that side of things. And then also the physical element. Yoga has a level of flexibility training in there as well. And if you're regularly training with weights, you might find that if you don't practice any stretching, you don't do your cool downs, mobility, if you neglect that, then over time your flexibility goes, and this really does heavily affect your range of movement. For example, squat. My squat isn't very good, and I'll admit I don't tend to squat that often, just because my ankle flexibility is horrendous. So I can only get myself to a certain point. So it just goes to show that not having the flexibility can really affect your range of movement, which can then affect your fitness programming. So coming sort of like from more of a yoga background, like what are your thoughts on yoga sort of complementing a weight training routine?
Well, here's the thing. I've worked with a lot of bodybuilders, and can I just pointedly say, if you're into bodybuilding, you have to do yoga. Let me just do that one more time. If you're into bodybuilding, you got to do yoga. Because I have had so many like young bodybuilders come to me with real big problems. Not like just, oh, I, slipped a disc or something, which is a big problem, but like real problems that are going to, go on for a while. And it comes from a not matching flexibility with strength. And the two really do have to go together for so many reasons. I mean, I could go on for a long time. And the problem is, like, I go to the gym as well. Probably not going as much as you do, but I had this thing where I was really like, oh, okay, I'm going to maintain my flexibility in yoga, but I also want to get big. And I tried for a year to see if I could actually do that. Like, if flexibility and strength are separate from one another. And they are, that you can become quite flexible and you can also become bigger and stronger. But it's terrible trying to get there, because your body is just always falling apart and in pain. And, you do a yoga class and you're all stretched out, and then you do the gym and you're like, oh. So it's not an easy route, but
Yeah.
I think they do have to kind of a little bit together. When obviously you build muscle, you make joints tighter, you make your muscles bigger and tighter. And that's
Mhm.
good for keeping the body stable and strong and able to do things, but it's really bad for joints when they have a lot of tension on them. Scar tissue holds toxins. So, I mean, muscles tend to, like really, really large muscles tend to hold a lot of toxins as well, which is what we don't want in the body.
Mhm.
So by stretching that out, by providing movement to the joints, to your spine, it tends to let the body work as it should, you know, let the spine move as it should, let the hips rotate the way they should. And it also keeps you very clean, which is very important.
Yeah.
The other thing when we're talking about the gym, generally speaking, now I'm not speaking as like a total expert here, but generally speaking, the gym sort of trains a specific type of movement. It tends to, like, if you're into weights, you do it tend to like a very, you know, like a kind of power thing. With yoga, it tends to be longer. It trains your muscles in a different way, right? Um,
Right. Yeah, so I just while you're there, I wanted to bring that up because with strength training, especially if you're doing your power training, and you're doing a lot of fast movements, and you require the power for the heavier training, what you're doing there is you're recruiting a lot of your fast twitch muscles, whereas yoga, it focuses more on your slow twitch fibers. So
yeah, I don't know what those are, but okay.
so I mean, for optimal hypertrophy, so building muscle, you really want to have a really good balance of both fast twitch and slow twitch fibers. And if you're in the gym and you're constantly doing the power training and you're working fast reps, then you're doing wonders for your fast twitch fibers, but you're kind of neglecting your slow twitch. So like you were saying then, if you're concentrating more on the slow holds and moving and transitioning between whilst keeping a contraction in the muscle, then you're going to be recruiting more of your slow twitch fibers.
Yeah, and it came very clear. I was with a friend of mine, and he was a big bodybuilder, and we went on a vacation, and I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, we'll do some yoga every morning. And this was a long time ago, and I thought, oh, this will be great. Like, we can do a lot of power stuff. He's really strong. He's really fit. And I put him into a downward dog, and he couldn't hold it for 5 breaths. And it came as a big shock to me. I was like, but what? He's got huge shoulders, really strong arms. What? And that's when I was kind of like, muscles work in different ways. So if you put the two together, it really, you'll notice a huge difference in your performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the argument could get any stronger there, for the reasons of why yoga is absolutely so beneficial towards weight training routine.
On so many levels.
I think we nailed it on that one. So is yoga effective for the time poor? Because I think you know, yoga, I don't know if I'm the only one with this thinking, but I started out thinking that yoga needed a good sort of 30 to 60 minutes maximum to really sort of like get into the zone. Is it still beneficial if you can only do, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes a day? If you're like really struggling with spare time, you know, can you still incorporate yoga into your daily routine?
Oh, well, yeah. And that's the thing. And I think it's really good for people who don't have a lot of time, because yoga is kind of the one-stop shop to really good health. Like it makes you strong. It makes you flexible. It detoxes the body. It moves your spine. It helps your energetic system. It helps your emotional systems. So if you've got 5 minutes, you might as well do the most with those 5 minutes that you can. And, you know, 5 sun salutations, real quick, that does a lot for a person. You know, sitting and doing a couple of poses, sitting in meditation, that does a lot for a person. And what you'll find is this then starts to go into all aspects of your life. If you train the muscles of respiration to work better, if you increase lung capacity, then your breath starts to get longer. And that just happens while you're doing everything. And that means you're calmer, you're getting more oxygen into your body, you're breathing diaphragmatically, which means you can talk for more if you have a job that requires you to talk. There's a lot of reasons why a long, slow breath is much healthier than short staccato breaths. If you're using your full lung versus just this much, that's obviously better. So this starts to kind of come into your whole life. You sit up taller. So if you're at work doing this for 8 hours, then the lower back pain doesn't happen so much. And if it's 5 minutes a day that you can build your core through some yoga, or, you know, stretch out your spine and get it moving, then that's 5 minutes will make the rest of your day better.
Okay, perfect. Because I think that can sometimes be a reason why people wouldn't even go down the route of thinking of giving yoga a try, because, you know, they just don't have the time for it, but they think, oh, I might go and do a HIIT session for 10 minutes, you know, high intensity or Tabata, because that can be easily done. And so it's good to know that actually you don't need hours and hours of time to be able to include it into your daily life.
The problem is, though, it becomes addictive. And so, and I've never seen this not happen where somebody's like, oh, well, I can only do like one class a day or like one class a week. I can manage that in. And then Lord knows 6 months later, they're coming every night, you know, like they find a way. So that's something to consider.
But what a great addiction to have, and a sign that it's obviously amazing to get started with. Next question, can anyone do yoga? So does yoga come with any limitations? So for example, if someone is quite overweight or has never done any level of fitness or put any what's the word that I'm trying to think of, priorities to their flexibility, and they really are starting from scratch, can anyone just get started with yoga, or does it come with its limitations?
No. Anybody can do yoga. Honestly, one of my first class, well, not the first class, but the classes I used to take with my family when I first started, there was a man who had a stroke in class, and the right side of his body didn't work. So he quite literally had to physically pick up his arm and hold it while we were doing poses.
Wow.
And whenever I start to go up my own ass and I'm like, oh, I'm too tired. Oh, my back hurts. I'm like, Mark, shut up. You need to. I just remember when I'm like, you know, get over yourself. Literally anybody can do yoga. I've done yoga with people who are overweight, who are underweight, who are very, very stiff, who are super flexible, who have certain health conditions that, you know, are more serious than other health conditions. Like anybody can do yoga, and any teacher hopefully should be able to cater yoga to something that is accessible and helpful for that person. The key is and what yoga really tries to teach is to keep it where it's good for you, you know? So if you do have, I don't want to say limitations, but if you have a particular body, or if you have something with your body, like we all have something with our body, like you said, you have tight ankles. Well, that's wonderful. You know, you can still do yoga, just like somebody who maybe is overweight. That's wonderful. You can still do yoga, because the poses can always be made to work for you. And I've always said, like, you don't put your body into a pose, you put the pose around your body so that whatever you're doing is working for whatever body you have. And if that is, you know, a body with a health issue, if that is a body that is very stiff, is very flexible, then you make it work for you. And it can.
I love that. I love that idea of you make it work for you, like it works around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So if you are a complete beginner, literally starting out from scratch, you've never looked at a yoga video, you've never read about yoga, but you've heard people talking about it, what would be your tips for someone who is looking to delve into the yoga world?
Okay, do you mind if I get a little bit hippie right now? Can I just go a little bit hippie?
Go for it.
Just a tiny touch hippie right now, because I think this is important. Okay, we have this thing in yoga called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and it's like this old book written by, like, you would say, the grandfather of yoga. And the first word in the book is Ata, and Ata translates to now. So basically, that it means like now at this blessed moment. So if you are thinking about yoga, if you're even like, oh, my back hurts, I need to, maybe yoga could help. Even if that's come into your consciousness, you're at a point in your life, or your karma, if I can get a little more hippie again, has brought you to a point where you're ready to start doing yoga. Okay. So even the fact that you said, hey, maybe I should consider this practice, you're at a point where, I don't know, the universe, the divine, whatever you say, has said to you, okay, yeah, you need to do this. This is time. So I'm being a yoga teacher here, and I say it's your responsibility then to follow that, to heed the call, take up arms. And the good news is there's a lot out there now, which is actually good news, because when I started doing yoga, there wasn't that much out there. So it was still pretty much, I had to go out and hunt and like do my research and like figure it all out. Now there's a lot, like there's just so much out there, and that can be daunting, but it's actually really, really good, because if you just kind of like scratch the surface, so much bubbles up, and you'll very quickly kind of be like, okay, this speaks to me, that not so much. I'm going to close that door, but I'm going to keep going down this way. And it pretty quickly, you start to see what you like and what you don't like. So my advice to any beginner is do it, because now's the time. You're in the right space, the stars have aligned, whatever. It's time for you to start doing yoga. And then just experiment, have fun with it, and don't put yourself under any restrictions, like, I need to do this, I have to be able to do this, my body needs to be at this point where I can do that. Don't worry about that stuff. If you're enjoying yourself, if you're not hurting yourself, if you come out and you're feeling good, you're doing it right. Okay. And so the less, what's the word I'm looking for? Not restrictions, the less stuff you put on yourself. I need to be, I need to do, I need to look a certain way, You're just ruining the experience from the get-go for yourself. So don't worry about it. Have fun, go into as many classes as you possibly can, try as many teachers as you possibly can, stay safe, and whatever happens is going to be good.
Awesome. That's so motivating. Like you've made me literally want to like stop this recording, or as soon as we finished, and go and do some yoga. So so motivating there, which is great. Listen, where can the listeners find more information about you and your practices and your teachings, and follow sort of like your journey?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Mark Jeffrey Scodolero. My Facebook isn't really that exciting. I have a company, a Mark on the Mat. You can follow me on that. I don't do a lot online, and that is something I'm going to work on. This experience has taught me that. But I'm always available for any questions, or, if you want to shoot anything by me. But the best thing to find me is on Facebook or Instagram under a Mark on the Mat.
Okay, awesome. And what I'll do is I'll actually put some links to those pages in the podcast show notes as well, so that people can sort of click on those, and you can find Mark if you want to follow up on this podcast. So, I mean, that's everything from me and the questions I had. You've answered everything just perfectly. Is there anything that you kind of like want to add in, or anything?
I think you asked like some pretty big questions. And I mean, I may have gone off on a big tangent on some of them. It's sort of hard to stop myself. I think the key is, nowadays it's just so big. So I say, like, with reckless abandonment, dive in and just enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, then change something up, because what was told to me, and I guess what I'll tell to you and your listeners, is I don't know how it will change your life, but it will change your life. So that's just how it works.
That's such a powerful sentence to end on there.
That's an ender, isn't it? That's an ender.
All right, well, thank you so much for giving me your time today. I've learned so much, and I imagine that the listeners will have as well. So again, guys, if you want to reach out to Mark and if you want to give him a follow, then the links will be in the podcast show notes. So go ahead and check those out. But thank you very much, Mark, for this today.
Thank you.